My name is Janet Squires. I'm 33 years old. And on a Tuesday afternoon in November, I came home from a 12-hour clinic shift to find my own bag scattered across the front lawn of the house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 5 years. My sister Nicole stood in my doorway with her 2 kids behind her. "We're moving in with Mom. Get out, you parasite." "Are you serious?" I asked. My mother, the woman I'd quit my career to care for, laughed. "We decided." I didn't argue. I picked up one bag, the one I'd packed 2 weeks earlier, the day I called the lawyer, and I drove away. By 6 the next morning, my phone had 53 missed calls. Not because they missed me, because they finally read one thing. If you've ever been the invisible child in your own family, the one who showed up while everyone else got the credit, stay with me. By the end of this story, you'll know exactly when I stopped showing up. And you'll know how I made sure they couldn't pretend they didn't see me anymore. That Tuesday started normal. I was on shift at the Lakeshore Family Clinic in Westlake, Ohio. 12 hours, 3 back-to-back cases of pediatric flu, 2 prescription refills that needed prior authorization, 1 elderly patient whose blood pressure I had to recheck 4 times before he'd let me write the script. By 2 o'clock, I had a tuna sandwich in my lunch bag that I hadn't touched. Andrew Whitaker, my colleague, family medicine doc, the kind of man who notices things, caught me in the hallway between rooms. "You sleeping at all, Janet?" "On weekends, sometimes." He held a chart against his chest and looked at me longer than the question deserved. "You ever think about leaving that house?" I didn't answer. Mrs. Eberhardt was waiting in room 3 for her ankle recheck, and I pretended I hadn't heard him. I'd think about that question many times over the next 10 days. I clocked out at 2:04. My blue Subaru Outback was the 3rd car from the door. I drove the 18 minutes to my mother's house. To our house, technically, though only one of us paid for it, and turned onto Westridge Drive expecting nothing. A yellow U-Haul was parked in my driveway. Behind it was Nicole's white SUV, and behind that was a Honda I didn't recognize, with 2 kid seats in the back and a magnetic sign that said Whirlpool Home Appliances on the rear quarter panel. My belongings were on the lawn. Not in boxes, just thrown. My medical school binders from 2014. My nursing scrubs in a clear plastic tub, lid open, raining on themselves. My father's photograph from his 65th birthday, the one I kept on my dresser, face down in a flower bed. My Eddie Bauer duffel, the gym one, flung onto the rose bushes like a body. There were boxes, too. I counted 15. Fast. The way you count anything when your brain is trying to decide whether to scream. Tyler, Nicole's 10-year-old, was sitting on the front step in a Cleveland Browns jacket. He looked up when I got out of the car. "Mom said this was Grandma's house now." He said it like he was repeating a rule. I didn't answer him. I walked toward the door. Nicole was standing in my doorway with Madison behind her, gripping a stuffed rabbit. My mother was just inside, in the navy cardigan my father bought her in 2018, her hands folded in front of her like she was at church. "We're moving in with Mom," Nicole said. "Get out, you parasite." It came out of her like she'd practiced it in the mirror. "Are you serious?" I asked. My mother gave a soft, breathy laugh. "We decided. It's better this way, sweetheart." Sweetheart. In 5 years she had never called me that. Not once. Not when I made her breakfast every morning. Not when I slept on the couch so her grandchildren could have my room. Not on any of the 5 birthdays she forgot. The word landed on me like she'd been saving it for someone else, and slipped. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't ask why. I asked for 5 minutes to grab personal items. Nicole made a face like she was doing me a favor. "Hurry up. We have movers." I walked past her. I went to my room. I knelt down and pulled the duffel bag from under the bed, the one I'd packed 2 weeks earlier on the night I called Teresa Callahan and told her, "I think it's time." In it, my laptop, an external SSD with everything backed up and encrypted, my passport, a folder thick as a phone book, $3,400 in 20s, one photograph of my father from 2019, the one I'd kept under my pillow. That was it. I walked back through the kitchen where my mother stood by the sink. She didn't look at me. I walked past Nicole, who was already pretending to text someone. I walked out the front door and looked up, directly at the doorbell camera I'd installed in October, and gave it one long second, like a goodbye to a witness. I picked up my father's photograph from the flower bed. I left everything else. The kids waved from the front window as I backed out of the driveway. They didn't know what was happening. I waved back. My mother stood in the doorway watching. Nicole had already shut the door. For 5 years, I had cooked her breakfast every morning. She didn't even watch me leave. I drove 23 minutes to Philip Squire's house, my father's younger brother, my uncle, the only person in our extended family who'd ever called me on my actual birthday. He opened the door before I knocked. "It's tonight, isn't it?" It wasn't a question. He poured me a whiskey I didn't drink and sat across from me at his kitchen table. The tumbler had been my father's. Philip kept it after the funeral. "Your father knew this would happen," he said. "He told me in 2020. He said, 'Phil, Nicole's going to come for everything I leave Janet. Watch the house.' I didn't believe him. I told him he was being morbid. I owe him an apology I can't deliver anymore." I put my phone on the table and turned on airplane mode for the first time in 5 years. My mother had always needed me reachable, 24/7. Heart palpitations at 3 a.m. A weird noise in the basement at midnight. A neighbor she didn't trust. The phone had been a leash for so long I'd forgotten phones could just be phones. I slept in Philip's guest room from 10 p.m. straight through to 6:15. 1,952 nights of broken sleep. Then one good one. I didn't yet know that while I slept, my phone, silent on the dresser, was filling up. At 6:17 the next morning, I came downstairs in one of Philip's sweatshirts. He'd already made coffee. I pulled my phone off the charger, switched off airplane mode, and watched the screen light up like a slot machine that had finally hit. 53 missed calls, 19 voicemails, 41 texts. I didn't open them right away. I drank half a cup of coffee first. Then I started to scroll. The first text was from my mother at 4:32 a.m. "The heat won't turn on. Tyler is crying. Please come home." I scrolled down. The fourth to last text was from Greg Hartley, my brother-in-law, at 5:47 a.m. Janet. "We need to talk. Nicole has been lying to me for months." I set the phone face down. "Phil," I said, "I think we're going to need a bigger table." To understand what came next, you have to go back to January 2020. My father, Edward Squires, 67 years old, never smoked a cigarette in his life. He went to his GP in early January because he'd been short of breath climbing stairs. The chest X-ray was abnormal. The follow-up CT showed 4 tumors in his right lung, 2 in his lymph nodes, 1 shadow on the spine they didn't like. Stage 4. The pulmonologist gave him a number, 4 to 6 months, in the careful voice doctors use when they've already decided not to soften it. My father's reaction, sitting on the exam table in a hospital gown. "Well, I always wanted to retire, just not like this." He came home that afternoon and made my mother a tuna sandwich because she had skipped lunch. I was 28. I was a nurse practitioner at Boston General Hospital, primary care, salary just under $100,000. I had a 1-bedroom in Beacon Hill I'd saved for 4 years to afford. I had a boyfriend named David Carmichael who taught architecture at MIT and kept telling me I should call my parents more. The day my father called me with the diagnosis, I booked the next flight to Cleveland Hopkins. Friday, 7 p.m., back Sunday, 11. I made that flight 12 weekends in a row. In between, I called my sister. Nicole and Greg lived 90 minutes from my parents in Akron. She was a stay-at-home mom. Greg made decent money on the manufacturing line at Whirlpool. She had a 10-year-old, Tyler, and a 5-year-old, Madison. The first call, when I told her about the diagnosis, she said, "Oh God, send me updates." She didn't ask how he was feeling. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask whether she should drive over. In the 7 months my father was dying, my sister visited him twice. The first visit was Easter weekend. 4 hours. She brought Tyler and Madison to say bye to Grandpa, let them run loops around the hospital bed playing iPad games, and left at 5. The second visit was mid-June. 2 hours, no overnight. She brought my mother 8 boxes of Costco muffins and called it a care package. After Easter, I sat with my father on the back porch while he tried to drink ginger ale. He looked at me with the wry expression he used when something was about to hurt me. "Did your sister even look at me, Jan?" I didn't answer. David, in Boston, was patient for as long as he could be. By June, he was tired. "You haven't been home in months, Jan. We had a plan." I said it would only be a few months. I was wrong about a lot of things that summer. On July 18th, 2020, a date I will remember until I die, I was sitting next to my father's hospice bed, in the room that used to be the dining room, at 4 in the morning. My mother was asleep upstairs. She had been awake almost continuously for 10 days and had finally collapsed. The light from the kitchen made a pale yellow rectangle across the floor. The hospice nurse, a woman named Roberta who worked the overnight shift, had stepped outside to call her own husband. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator cycle on and off. My father reached for my hand. His grip was almost nothing. He pulled me close. "Janet, promise me." "Anything, Dad." "Your mother is going to fall apart. Nicole won't come." "Not really. Promise me you'll take care of her." "I promise. And one more thing." He paused. The breath was hard. "Don't let her forget you." I had been recording the conversation, the way I'd learned to record difficult clinical conversations as an NP, for the record, for clarity, for memory. The voice memo on my iPhone is 41 seconds long. It is the most expensive 41 seconds I will ever own. It is also the reason I survived the next 5 years. He did not speak much after that. He drifted in and out of awareness. At one point, he said something that sounded like "Phil knows." I thought he meant Philip knew about the cancer. I would learn later that he meant something else. He died 4 days later, at home, on a Wednesday morning. The funeral was 3 days after that. 46 people came. My father's brother Philip. My mother's 2 sisters from Erie. Linda Pemberton, his neighbor of 31 years, who showed up in a black wool coat in July because she couldn't think straight. Nicole left after 40 minutes. "Kids' summer camp pickup tomorrow morning, Mom? You understand." And my mother nodded the way grieving women nod when they've used up the muscle for opinions. Linda Pemberton, on her way out, gripped my elbow. "Your father always said you'd be the one." He was right. I wrote that down on the back of a funeral program. In August, my mother stopped eating for 5 days. She stopped showering for 9. She wore my father's flannel shirt to bed and refused to take it off. I called my friend Stacy Kowalski, RN at Mass General, and asked her to fly in for a wellness assessment because I didn't trust myself to be objective. Stacy stayed 2 days. On her last morning, she said, "Jan, she needs someone here 24/7, or she needs to be hospitalized." I called Nicole. "Mom is suicidal. I need you to come." "I have the kids' soccer this weekend." "Maybe next weekend?" Next weekend never came. I counted the bottle of Valium in my mother's medicine cabinet. There were 4 pills missing. I hid the rest. In September, I quit Boston General. My boss cried in her office, which I had not expected. I gave the apartment notice. I lost my deposit. And on a Sunday afternoon in late September, I sat across from David in our kitchen and told him I couldn't do this to him. I can't ask you to wait for something I can't promise. You're not asking. I'm offering. I went anyway. He sent me one last text that night. If you ever come back, I'll still be here. I didn't reply. He wasn't wrong about who I was. He was wrong about who I would become. I moved into the Westlake house on October 11th, 2020. I thought I would be there 6 months, a year at most, until Mom stabilized. In December, the mortgage lender called. The house had $186,500 left on it. My mother's pension and Social Security totaled $28.40 a month. The mortgage was $18.95. I sat at her kitchen table with a calculator and tried to make her see it. Mom, you can't make this payment. We need to refinance. To do that, the deed needs to come into my name. I can pay the mortgage from my income and the equity stays in the family. But you need to sign. I had set up a meeting at Teresa Callahan's office, a family friend of my father's, a probate attorney downtown. Teresa walked my mother through the documents 3 times. She asked, gently, like a nurse, Mrs. Squires, do you understand this means the house is no longer in your name? My mother waved her hand. Just handle it, honey. You're the smart one with money. She signed. And in the years that followed, she told everyone she met, neighbors, second cousins, the cashier at the Heinen's grocery store, that she still owned the house. I never corrected her. That was my first mistake. For 5 years, I paid the mortgage on the house my mother thought she owned, in a name she had forgotten was mine, while she lived inside the proof of my labor and didn't see any of it. Let me give you the math, because the math is what makes this story not just sad, but criminal. Mortgage payment, $1,895 a month, 68 months, $128,860. Property tax, $21,250. Homeowners insurance, $8,400. A new HVAC system in 2022 because the old one died on a 100-degree day and my mother refused to sleep upstairs. $11,200. A new roof in 2023 because the insurance adjuster found 3 soft spots and threatened to drop us. $7,300. Groceries, prescription copays, doctor's visits, dentist visits, the supplemental Medicare gap she never qualified to fix. Across 5 years, approximately $82,000 of mine. Total, $258,910. I kept it in an Excel spreadsheet I named memory.xlsx. She never asked me where the money came from. Not once. But here is what makes the math personal. Here is the part that broke something in me long before I called the lawyer. In 2010, when my sister got married, my parents spent $32,000 on her wedding. The dress, the venue, the band, the flowers. I have the canceled checks. My father saved them. Not for spite, but because that's what accountants do. In 2014, when I started medical school, when I redirected to nurse practitioner because my mother begged me to pick something less dangerous, I paid for it myself. Cleveland State undergrad, then the bridge program at Case Western. Total, $76,000. Loans, scholarships, 2 waitressing jobs, 3 summers of overnight shifts. When I graduated as an NP in 2018, my mother didn't come to the ceremony. Nicole had a parent-teacher conference for Tyler's kindergarten class. My mother told me in the kitchen the next week, "You don't make a fuss like Nicole does. We all know you'll be fine." I tell you this not because it was the cruelest thing she said to me. There were crueler things. I tell you because everything that came later, the eviction, the realtor, the locks, started with that sentence. She had decided, somewhere in her head, that I didn't need her. And once she decided that, she stopped looking at me. Layer upon layer. The hallway photo wall. 14 pictures of Nicole, Tyler, and Madison. Across 5 years, photographs of me on that wall, 0. Once, in 2024, I framed a picture of my father and me from my graduation and put it on the wall. The next week, it had been moved to my room. It's been moved to your room, sweetheart. The wall is for family. The slip-ups. Across 5 years, my mother called me Nicole by accident 8 times. The first time I laughed. The 8th time, I passed her the gravy. Christmas Day 2024. I started the turkey at 5 a.m. so it would be ready when she woke up. At 11, Nicole called from Akron. My mother stayed on the phone 2 hours and 14 minutes. The turkey went cold. When I asked if she wanted me to plate something, she covered the receiver with her hand. Sweetie, can you keep it down? I'm talking to your sister. I ate alone at the kitchen counter at 2 in the afternoon while she said, "Oh, Nicole, I miss you so much. The house is so quiet without grandkids into the phone, in her own kitchen, 10 feet from her own daughter." The Christmas card my mother gave me that year had no handwriting in it. Just the printed wishing you a joyful holiday. I picked it up off the counter and put it back down. For 5 birthdays, March 1st every year. My mother forgot. I made her breakfast each of those mornings. It was a small mercy I could give myself. I could pretend she remembered, and the pretending counted as a gift. The 5th year, March 1st, 2025, I made her oatmeal with brown sugar and blueberries. I sat across from her. I waited. She told me she'd had a strange dream about my father. She did not look at me. I cleared the plates. For Christmas 2024, Tyler got $400. Madison got $400. I got a $25 Bath and Body Works gift card. You're an adult, sweetheart. You don't need much. I keep that gift card in my wallet, unused, as a reminder. I did not throw it away. There were small things that hurt almost as much as the big things, the way she would refill her own water glass at dinner without offering me water. The way she stopped buying the cereal I liked because Tyler doesn't eat that one when he visits. The way, when I had a fever of 103 in February 2023, she stood in my doorway and said, "Honey, I'm hungry. Can you make some toast?" I made the toast. I went back to bed. The fever broke in the night, alone. When Nicole and her family visited, 3 times a year, Tyler took my old bedroom because it was bigger and had the window over the garden. Madison took the guest room. I slept on the couch, in the house I was paying the mortgage on, under a beige throw blanket that smelled faintly of dog. The first time it happened, I told myself it was a one-time thing. By the 3rd year, I had given up the fight inside my own head. I sent a photo of the folded blanket to Stacy in 2024. She wrote back, "Janet, this is not normal. Please get out." I didn't reply. 8 months ago, March 2025, I started recording my mother's stories. I told myself it was for cognitive screening. Really, it was for me. I needed proof that I had not invented her. One afternoon, I asked her about being pregnant with me and Nicole. I expected nostalgia. With Nicole, I dreamed about her every night. With you, I just wanted the pregnancy to end. I was so tired. 47 seconds. iPhone voice memo, file name, memory_03_18_2 025.m4a. I never listened to it again. But I kept 3 backups, in 3 different places. That night I asked her, point blank, looking at her over the dinner I had cooked, "Mom, why don't you ever talk about me to people?" She smiled the smile she used for difficult patients of her own. "You've always been independent, sweetheart. Nicole needs me more. You don't need anyone." I smiled back. I cleared the plates. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and cried for 23 minutes on the tile floor. When I came out, I started to think differently. Not about her. About what I could do. In 2022, David got married. The invitation came to my mother's address. I had stopped giving anyone the Westlake address. Somehow he had found it. Heavy ivory paper. Mr. and Mrs. Carmichael request the honor of your presence at the wedding of their son David to Megan Wallace, Saturday, October 8th, 2022, at the Boston Public Library. I stood at the kitchen counter and read it 3 times. My mother walked in, glanced at it, and said, "Who's that, sweetie? Is that one of your nursing friends?" I didn't go. I sent a card and a $200 gift card to Williams-Sonoma. Wishing you all the joy in the world. Janet. 3 weeks later, David texted. The first text he had sent me since 2020. You missed it. We had a chair for you, Jan. I hope she sees you. I hope she sees what you're giving up. I screenshotted it and kept it in a folder I called Reminders. I did not reply. For 5 years, I worked part-time at the Lakeshore Family Clinic in Westlake. Salary, $52,000 a year. Roughly half of what I had made in Boston. I told myself it didn't matter. It mattered. I had a colleague back in Boston, Hannah Brennan. We had finished the bridge program at the same time. We used to study together at a coffee shop in Cambridge. Hannah, in 2024, was promoted to Director of Nursing at Massachusetts General Hospital. She sent me a LinkedIn message. Jan, I never understood why you left. Boston still has a chair for you? I screenshotted that one too. My LinkedIn profile in 2025 still said Nurse Practitioner, Lakeshore Family Clinic. The bio field was blank. I had given up on telling people who I had once been. In 5 years, I had not been on a date. I had not taken a vacation that wasn't a continuing education conference I attended for credits. I had not bought clothes that weren't scrubs or sweatpants. I cut my own hair in the bathroom mirror. Badly. My calendar, Google Calendar, had no birthdays, no weekends, no personal events. Just my mother's appointments, refills, Medicare deadlines, holiday menus. In August 2025, Andrew caught me in the break room over a paper plate of lukewarm spaghetti. He sat down across from me without asking. You've been here 4 years, Janet. I have never heard you talk about yourself. There's nothing to say. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard a smart person say. I didn't reply. I was going to brush past it. But that night, walking the dog my mother had insisted on adopting and had then refused to walk, I started thinking about it. About what I would say if there was anything to say. About what I would tell my own daughter if I'd had one, about the woman she came from. I came home that night and I started a new folder on my laptop. House_documents.zip. Backup of the deed, the refinance paperwork, every mortgage statement, every property tax receipt, every insurance bill, every grocery receipt I could find from the past 2 years. I didn't know yet why I was doing it. I know now. In May 2025, Stacy flew out to visit me. We had dinner at the Westlake house. Mom played hostess. She'd recovered enough since 2020 to remember her manners with company. Linda Pemberton came by to drop off tomatoes from her garden. My mother turned to Linda, smiling. This is Janet's friend from college. Stacy looked confused. We work together, at Boston General. I'm a nurse. My mother's face went strange. You worked at Boston General? Janet, you never told me that. I had told her. 600 times. I had described the hospital, the unit, the boss, the patients. I had cried on her shoulder about a patient who died. None of it had taken root. In Stacy's rental car at the curb, she didn't try to be gentle. Janet, your mother doesn't know what you do for a living. I didn't cry. I drove home. I went to bed. The next morning, I got up at 5, made my mother her oatmeal, and went to work. That was the last week of May. 3 months later, Greg Hartley got laid off. Whirlpool announced layoffs in early August 2025. Greg was in the second wave, 12 weeks of severance, Cobra, and a benefits packet they Xeroxed too dark to read. For the first time in 5 years, my sister called my mother every day. The first thing I noticed was the cooking. My mother, who hadn't asked me what I was making in months, suddenly began suggesting what would be nice for the kids when they visit. The visits had not been planned, but she was already cooking for them. Then the calls. I came in from the clinic one afternoon at 5:15, my hands sticky with bread dough, and walked toward the kitchen. My mother was on speakerphone with Nicole. "Of course, honey, this house is big enough. Janet doesn't have a family of her own." I stopped in the hallway with my hands still in the bowl. I rinsed them. I went to the porch. I called Teresa Callahan. "Teresa, I think I need an updated copy of the deed." "I have it." "When are you coming in?" "Soon." In September, my mother told me, casually over her oatmeal, that Nicole and the kids might come for Thanksgiving. I said, "That sounds nice." A week later, Linda Pemberton, 68, sharp, my father's neighbor of 3 decades, left me a voicemail. "Janet, honey. Your mother said something strange. She told me Nicole's family is moving in for a few months to help with her health. Is your mom sick? Call me when you can." My mother had no health condition that required care. None. Either she had been manipulated by my sister, or she was lying with intent. I needed to know which. On October 5th, 2025, I dusted my mother's bedroom while she was at church. On her nightstand, under a Reader's Digest, I found a business card. Pamela Donnelly, Westlake Premier Realty, specializing in inheritance properties and rapid sales. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, listing appointment November 20th, comparable $395,000. I took a photograph of both sides of the card and put it back exactly where I'd found it. I sat on the edge of her bed for 2 minutes. My mother, who could not figure out the TV remote, was meeting a realtor. I Googled Pamela Donnelly. The first review said, "Pamela was incredibly fast. We were able to close on my mother-in-law's property within 11 days, even though the family situation was complicated." Family situation. I knew what that meant. I stood up. I left the house. I drove to the parking lot of the Westlake Library and called Teresa from there. "They're going to try." "I know. We're ready." On October 12th, at 9:23 p.m., I went into the bathroom upstairs, leaving my iPhone on the kitchen counter. I had been recording on a slow-rolling memo every evening for 3 weeks. Just the kitchen. Just whatever happened. When I came back downstairs, my mother was on speakerphone again. "Mom, you know how Janet is. She'll make a scene. We'll handle her. Just sign the listing agreement when Pamela comes." "What if she finds out?" "She doesn't have to find out until it's done. She'll figure out we're family. She always does." "And what about her things? Her clothes? Her files?" "We put them outside. She has that car. She has friends. She always lands on her feet. That's her thing." I went back upstairs. I locked the bathroom door. I sat on the floor for 11 minutes. I did not cry the way you cry when something is unexpected. I cried the way you cry when something is finally clear. The way you cry when the math you have been refusing to do for 5 years lines up. When it stops being math and becomes a sentence. She always lands on her feet. My mother had said that about me, like I was an animal in a documentary, like I had not bled myself dry to keep her alive. In the morning, I packed a small overnight bag, very carefully, very quietly. I put it under my bed. On October 14th, I sat in Teresa Callahan's office downtown with a folder thick as a phone book. The deed. 5 years of mortgage statements. 8 years of property tax receipts. The voice memo. The realtor card photo. The transcript of the kitchen call I had typed up that morning. She read for 2 hours. She didn't speak. When she did, it was the voice she used in court. "Janet, Legally, you own this house outright. They have no claim. None. But they don't know that. And if you tell them, they'll back off and try again later. So the question is, what do you want to happen? I sat for 30 seconds. I want them to do it. I want to let them try. Then I want to take everything back. At the time of my choosing. Teresa didn't smile, but her eyes did. That's not strategy, Janet. That's surgery. If your mother had to choose between you and your sibling tomorrow, do you already know who she'd pick? Comment yes if you do. Comment no if you'd rather not. I'll tell you what happened when I finally had my answer. Right after this. People assume that the answer to family abuse is to confront, to scream, to demand, to be heard. That isn't how surgery works. The first thing I did, the morning after the kitchen call, was buy a Wise video doorbell on Amazon for $89. I installed it Saturday morning while my mother was at the 8 o'clock service at St. Andrew's. I linked it to my personal Google account, not the family Wi-Fi sign-in. The cloud storage went to my own subscription. When my mother got home and saw the new doorbell, she frowned. "What's that, sweetie?" "Package theft in the neighborhood. Linda warned me about it." She nodded and went inside. That afternoon, I saw Linda standing on her own porch across the street, holding a Ring camera box. We made eye contact. She did not wave. She just nodded once. She knew something. She had known something for a long time. The second thing I did was move documents. 3 weekends in a row, I drove the binder to Philip's house. The deed. 68 mortgage statements, property tax, insurance, the HVAC contract, the roof contract, bank statements highlighting payments to my mother across 5 years, yellow Sharpie, every line, the voice memos, copied to 3 encrypted drives. Philip's gun safe became a document safe. The combination was 4 numbers. He knew them. I knew them. No one else. The third weekend, after I had finished the document migration, Philip handed me an envelope. He left this with me in 2020. He said only if it happens. It was sealed in my father's handwriting. I didn't open it. I put it in my purse. I asked Philip how my father had known. Philip swallowed and looked out the kitchen window. He watched her, kid. He watched both of you for a long time. He told me once, after Nicole's wedding, that he'd given her the money for the down payment on the Akron house and she'd never said thank you. Not once. He said the absence of that thank you told him everything he needed to know about what would happen when he was gone. I told him he was being dark. He said no. He was being a parent. Parents see their kids clearly. They just don't always say it out loud while they're alive. I put the envelope in my purse and did not take it out for 31 days. The third thing I did was call Pamela Donnelly, October 22nd, 2 p.m., from the Westlake Library parking lot. I told her I was a concerned neighbor at 1849 Westridge, across the street and down, and I had heard there was a listing coming up at 1847. Yes, lovely property. The seller's daughter is handling the listing. Nicole Hartley. We go live November 20th. Oh, is the homeowner okay? Is there a bereavement? Between you and me, the daughter who's been living there has been unstable, mental health issues. The family wants to move quickly, quietly. I see. It happens more than you'd think in these inheritance situations. I thanked her warmly. I hung up. The recording was 6 minutes and 42 seconds. Ohio is a one-party consent state. The recording was legal. It was also, in legal terms, the moment my sister handed me a knife. Pamela Donnelly had said the words mentally unstable, out loud, on record, 3 weeks before my sister attempted to evict me from a property she had no right to. 3 weeks before the campaign, in writing, to defame me to a real estate agent. That was, in legal terms, a problem for her. The fourth thing I did was talk to Andrew. October 28th, lunch in the break room, fluorescent light. the clock above the microwave clicking the way it always did. There's a family situation, Andrew. I'm probably going to need someone professional to vouch for my mental state. Would you write a letter? He didn't ask me what was happening. He didn't ask why. He looked at me for about 3 seconds and then said, "I've worked with you 4 years, Janet. You're one of the most stable, competent clinicians I have ever met. Whoever's saying otherwise doesn't know you. I'll write whatever you need. I'll testify if you need." The letter, on Lakeshore Clinic letterhead, notarized at a UPS store on November 3rd, said all of that in formal language. He brought it to me in a manila envelope and slid it across the break room table without ceremony. I did not know how to thank him. I started to. He stopped me. "You don't have to thank me. Just win whatever this is." The fifth thing I did the second week of November was finalize the bag under my bed. Laptop, encrypted SSD, passport, $3,400 in cash. Father's photo, one change of clothes, charger. The sixth thing I did on November 9th at 10:17 p.m. was send Teresa the trigger email. Subject, eviction imminent. "Teresa, they'll do it this week. I'm ready." The moment they put my belongings outside the door, file the following: cease and desist defamation through Pamela Donnelly, notice of trespass to Eleanor Squires, counterclaim unauthorized listing attempt and real estate fraud. Do not file Monday. Wait until they have committed to camera. I want them to commit. J. Teresa replied at 10:23. Confirmed. Standing by. TC. The seventh thing I did, on November 10th at midnight, was log into my mortgage portal and cancel the auto debit scheduled for November 12th. I logged into the gas company, the electric company, the water utility, the internet provider, the cable company. Every account was in my name. Every service was scheduled to terminate at 12:01 a.m. on November 12th. That last night, I cooked my mother chicken and dumplings, her favorite. She told me I was so quiet today. I said I was just tired. I went to bed at 11. I set my alarm for 5:45. By 6 the next afternoon, my belongings would be on the lawn. Friday, November 14th, 2025. 10 in the morning. Teresa Callahan's conference room in downtown Cleveland. Mahogany table, 8 chairs, a window facing the lake. In the room, Teresa, Janet, Eleanor, escorted by Philip, Nicole, Greg Hartley, who had asked specifically to be present, Officer Daniel O'Brien of the Westlake Police Department, who had asked to attend as an observer, Andrew Whitaker, witness. On Zoom, on the screen at the head of the table, Pamela Donnelly. 2 days earlier, the eviction had been documented from 3 different angles: my Wise doorbell, Linda Pemberton's ring, Officer O'Brien's body camera. 2 days earlier, my sister had filed a false police report alleging I had abandoned an elderly woman with 2 children and stolen utilities. 2 days earlier, my sister had also called State Farm Insurance to file a damage claim for a broken pipe. On a homeowner's policy that was in my name only, not hers. The fraud unit had flagged it within 4 hours. That had been Wednesday. By Friday, my sister still didn't fully understand what was about to happen. Teresa opened the meeting by sliding a single document across the table. The deed. "Mrs. Squires, read this. Take your time." My mother read it the way old people read prescription bottles, slowly, mouthing each word. She looked up. "This says Janet." Nicole jumped in fast. "Mom, that's just the refinance paperwork from years ago. The house is still yours." Teresa, very softly. "It is not, Mrs. Hartley. Mrs. Squires signed a quitclaim deed in December 2020. The house has been in your sister's name for nearly 5 years. Your mother has been a tenant. A welcome one, but a tenant." My mother turned to me. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I tried, Mom. You said just handle it. So I handled it." She didn't have an answer. Nicole tried again. This is a scam. Janet manipulated her. Mom didn't understand what she was signing. Teresa, calmly. Mrs. Hartley, we have video and audio of the original signing in 2020. 2 witnesses, 2 notaries, and a 30-minute walkthrough of the document. Your mother understood. She also told the notary, on camera, that she trusted Janet to handle her affairs. Teresa pressed a button on her laptop. A short clip played from a 5-year-old camera in her old office. My mother's voice, bright and clear. Janet's the one who can handle this. I trust her completely. The room went quiet. Nicole's face flushed and went white in alternating waves. Teresa opened the binder. 68 mortgage statements, each highlighted on the borrower line. Janet Squires. She slid them across the table toward my mother. Every payment for the past 5 years was made by Janet. Not from a joint account, not from your funds, from hers. $128,860. Property tax, $21,250. Insurance premiums, $8,400. Repairs and improvements, $18,500, and approximately $82,000 additional dollars supporting your daily living expenses across that period. My mother whispered, "That can't be right." "It is, with receipts." Greg leaned forward. He looked at Nicole. "You told me Mom was paying." She didn't meet his eyes. Teresa continued. On October 8th, your daughter Nicole Hartley contacted Pamela Donnelly of Westlake Premier Realty to list the property, without the legal authority to do so, at $395,000. My mother said, "List my house?" "It is not your house, Mrs. Squires," and, based on 23 emails and 3 voicemails Nicole exchanged with Miss Donnelly across 6 weeks, you participated in her plan. Pamela? On the screen, Pamela Donnelly read, in her professional realtor voice, from an email dated October 22nd. Pamela, Mom is ready to list. Janet has issues we don't talk about. She'll try to claim a stake but has no rights. Please don't engage with her if she contacts you. My mother's face changed. You told them? She's unstable? Nicole didn't answer. Andrew Whitaker spoke for the first and only time. He spoke as a doctor. For the record, I am Dr. Andrew Whitaker, MD, Family Medicine, Lakeshore Clinic, Westlake. Janet Squires is one of the most stable, competent clinicians I have ever worked with. Across 4 years of patient care alongside her, I have never seen any indication of mental illness, instability, or impaired judgment. Whoever called her unstable was lying, and whoever they were lying to was being asked to participate in real estate fraud. His voice did not shake. He folded his hands. Teresa nodded. There is one more thing. Janet has a recording, captured legally under Ohio's one-party consent statute from October 12th. I am going to play 30 seconds. She pressed play. My mother's voice, from her own kitchen. What if she finds out? Nicole's voice. She doesn't have to find out until it's done. She'll figure out we're family. She always does. Silence in the conference room. My mother put her hand to her mouth. The dawn of understanding moved across her face. The dawn of understanding that she had not just gone along. She had participated. I didn't know what I was saying. I spoke for the first time in the meeting. Mom, you knew. She started to cry, quietly, real tears. Teresa wasn't done. There is one final piece of evidence I would like to enter. A second recording, from October 22nd of this year, made by Janet, also under Ohio one-party consent. I would like to play 45 seconds. She pressed play. Pamela Donnelly's voice on speakerphone came clearly into the room. Between you and me, the daughter who's been living there has been unstable. Mental health issues. The family wants to move quickly, quietly. Then my voice. Careful and even. I see. Then, Pamela, it happens more than you'd think in these inheritance situations. Teresa stopped the recording. To be clear, this is the realtor whose business card was on your mother's nightstand. This is the realtor with whom Nicole had been corresponding for 6 weeks. This is the realtor whom Nicole told, in writing, that her sister was mentally unstable. That is defamation per se. That is also a federal interstate matter since Pamela Donnelly's brokerage is licensed in 3 states. Mrs. Hartley, at this point, you are not just looking at civil exposure. You are looking at potential charges. Pamela, on the Zoom screen, leaned slightly closer to her camera. Mrs. Hartley, I want it on the record that I had no knowledge of the actual ownership of the property. I have terminated my engagement with you, and I will be fully cooperative with any investigation. Officer O'Brien wrote another note. Greg stood up and walked to the window. He didn't sit back down for the rest of the meeting. I let the silence sit for 14 seconds. I watched my sister stare at the table. I watched my mother weep. I watched Officer O'Brien write a note on his pad. I waited until Teresa nodded at me. I stood up. Mom, I came home in July of 2020 because I loved Dad and you were drowning. I quit a career I loved. I ended a relationship with a man who would have married me. I lost an apartment, a city, a life. I haven't been on a date in 5 years. I haven't slept in my own bedroom, my room, because Tyler and Madison get it 3 weekends a year. I did the math. I lost about $400,000 in earnings to be here. I spent $258,000 of my own money keeping this house and you in it. Every day I told myself it was worth it. Because you were my mother. Then I heard you tell Nicole I'd be fine on the lawn, like furniture you were rearranging. So fine. Be Nicole's mother. She's earned it after 5 years of birthday cards. The house is mine. The decision is mine. The next chapter. That's mine too. I am done being the daughter you forgot you had. I picked up the folder. I walked to the door. I did not look back. Greg Hartley filed for divorce on Monday, November 16th. He cited fraud and breach of marital trust. He asked for full custody of Tyler and Madison. The filing was a matter of public record at the Cuyahoga County Clerk's office. He texted me that morning. I'm sorry I never reached out before. I see now what she did. Thank you for the truth. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. He had already done the harder thing, which was face it. On November 17th, State Farm's fraud investigator, Karen Sullivan, took my statement in Teresa's office. She had Nicole's recorded call with the claims adjuster. She had the policy showing my name as sole policyholder. She had her own conclusion. Mrs. Hartley filed a claim on a property where she was not the policyholder, alleging damage that did not occur. This is not a small matter. This will be on her record permanently. Future homeowners' insurance applications in any state will reflect this. The case number was SF-2025-114-0H-3082. Nicole would not get a homeowner's policy in Ohio for years, probably anywhere in the country. On November 19th, my mother moved into Maple Grove Senior Living, a partial care facility off Detroit Road. $3,400 a month. I funded it from a trust I established that week, seeded with $50,000 from the eventual sale of the house. Her room was small, sunny, south-facing window. I put one photograph by her bed. My parents' wedding photo from 1979, restored and reframed. Linda Pemberton was the first non-family visitor that week. She drove the 8 miles from Westlake on a Wednesday morning. I wasn't there. I heard about it from Philip, who heard about it from Linda, who told it like she was reading a verdict. She had sat down across from my mother and held her hand, and then she had said, "Eleanor, I love you. I've loved you for 31 years. But Janet was the daughter who came home. You don't get to forget that anymore." My mother had cried again. Linda did not stay long. On November 21st, my sister appeared at Philip's door. Tyler and Madison were in the back of the SUV, watching something on a tablet. She had not slept. Her hair was uncombed. "Janet, Greg is leaving. Mom won't take my calls. The kids? I have nothing, please. Nicole, when is my birthday?" She blinked. "What? You don't even know when my birthday is." I waited. She said, "Around the spring sometime, March maybe. March 1st. For 33 years." She said the next part fast, like she'd practiced. "Janet, I am your sister. Whatever I did, we share a mother. We share a father's name. You can't just erase me." "I'm not erasing you, Nicole. I'm letting you have the consequences of your own actions. There is a difference. Mom never taught us the difference. Dad tried." I closed the door. From inside, Philip said very quietly, "You did right, kid. It doesn't feel right yet. It will." That afternoon, my sister's lawyer, appointed because she could not afford one of her own, sent Teresa a settlement offer. They would drop any claim to the property if I dropped the defamation suit and the false report charges. Teresa forwarded it to me with a single line. "Your call." I told her to drop the defamation suit. I told her to keep the false report charges. I told her I had no interest in destroying my sister, but I had a great interest in my sister's record reflecting what she had actually done. On November 25th, I listed the Westlake house. Not with Pamela Donnelly, with Heather Henderson, an agent 2 zip codes over with a clean reputation and a referral from Teresa. List price, $395,000. It sold in 11 days for $402,500 to Mark and Jenna Kowalczyk, a young family with 2 small kids who were so excited to see the basement they cried. At closing, Mark touched my arm. "I'm sorry." "Your face. Are you okay?" "Yeah. I'm just saying goodbye." I signed the closing documents in blue ink with a hand that did not shake. The numbers, after the sale: mortgage payoff, $186,500. Closing costs and commissions, roughly $24,000. Net to me, approximately $192,000. Of that, $50,000 into my mother's care trust. The rest, $142,000, split between a small condo in Rocky River, an investment account, and an emergency fund. I closed on the condo on December 1st. 1,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a small balcony. Mine. Outright cash for the down payment, with a small mortgage for the rest. The first thing I did when I got the keys was open the box from Boston that I had not opened in 5 years. I took David's flannel shirt out of it. I folded it and put it in a dresser drawer. I framed a picture of myself with my father and put it on the living room wall. I framed a picture of myself alone, from college graduation in 2013, and put it next to it. Andrew helped me move. He brought pizza from Garachi's. He didn't ask about anything. He left at 9. He texted at 9:15. "Text me if you need anything else." I replied, "I will." I did, but not for help moving. I started visiting my mother every Sunday at 2 o'clock. The first Sunday, December 8th. She cried again. She asked me why I still came. "Because you're still my mother. That doesn't fix what you did. It just means I get to choose what kind of daughter to be, separate from what kind of mother you were." She nodded. She put her hand on the table next to mine. She didn't take it. "I want to call Nicole." "That's your right, Mom. You can love who you want. But I won't be in the same room with her again. That's mine." She nodded a second time. She started to ask me how my new place was. I told her about the balcony. She asked if I had plants. I said I would soon. On December 17th, Greg Hartley sent me a card. Real card. Real envelope. His handwriting. He had been awarded temporary primary custody of Tyler and Madison. Janet, Tyler asked about you yesterday. He said you were the only adult who never lied to him. I told him you were very brave. Gee, I read it 3 times. I put it on my refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a peach. The card is still there. It occurred to me that Tyler, 10 years old, Brown's jacket, sitting on the front step that November afternoon, would grow up knowing the truth. Whatever else came of all this, he would grow up knowing the truth. That was Tyler's gift. Not mine to give, just one I had helped make possible. On Christmas Eve, Andrew rang my doorbell at 6 p.m. He was carrying a bottle of Cabernet from a Lake Erie winery and a roasted chicken in a foil pan from a place on Lake Avenue. He stamped the snow off his boots and looked at me. Really looked. Not the way men look when they want something, but the way people look when they're not sure they're invited but came anyway. I don't want to make this weird, Janet. 2 people who don't have anywhere else to be. That's all this is. Is that all? For now. I let him in. We ate at my small dining table. We talked about a difficult patient, an elderly woman who had refused to take her insulin until Andrew sat with her for an hour and listened to her tell him about the husband she had lost in 2019. We talked about a movie we'd both seen, an old one, Notting Hill, which I had watched in the Westlake house on a Sunday afternoon while my mother was at Nicole's once, and the volume was turned down so low I had read the subtitles. He told me about his brother who had died 7 years ago. The suicide he had not seen coming, the months afterward when he had stopped sleeping, the long climb back. I told him about my father. We did not talk about my sister or my mother. We did not need to. He told me, halfway through the chicken, that he had been waiting 4 years to ask if I was okay. That he had not asked because he didn't think I had the room to answer. You always look tired, Janet. Tired in a way that wasn't about sleep. I know. You don't look tired anymore. He left at 9:30. He thanked me. He did not try to kiss me. I did not want him to. I wanted, more than anything, for him to come back. Which I told him on the porch. In 3 words I had not said to anyone in 5 years. Come back soon. I washed the dishes alone. I dried them. I put them away. I thought about my mother in her small sunny room at Maple Grove, and my sister in some apartment in Akron she was now paying for alone, and Tyler and Madison going to sleep at Greg's place where the truth was allowed to be said out loud. I thought about my father. I went to my purse. I took out the envelope Philip had given me on November 11th, the night of the eviction. I had not opened it. It was a single page. Janet, if you're reading this, it means it happened. I'm sorry. I knew. I tried to tell your mother, but she didn't want to hear it. I want you to know 2 things. The house was for you. From the day we bought it, your mother forgot. That isn't your fault. The second thing is that you were never the second daughter to me. Not for a minute. Don't let her tell you otherwise from the grave. Take care of yourself first now. That's the only promise I should have asked. Dad. I folded the page. I put it in the drawer with David's flannel shirt and my mother's old wedding album and the $25 gift card I had never used. I poured myself a glass of the Cabernet Andrew had left half full. I sat on my balcony and watched the snow. My mother had taught me, in the long way, that family is a verb, not a noun. You earn it by showing up. You lose it by not. I came home in 2020 because I thought love was the same as duty. It isn't. Love that erases you isn't love. It's labor, uncompensated, unrecognized, and indistinguishable, after a while, from servitude. I stopped calling my sister family the day she put my belongings on a lawn. I stopped calling my mother family the day she laughed. I still see them. I still help when help doesn't cost me my life, but I no longer call betrayal family. That was the day my real life began. I'm Janet Squires. I'm 33 years old, and on Tuesday afternoons in November, I think about the woman I almost let myself disappear for. Then I make dinner. For myself first. If you've ever had to walk away from a parent or a sibling to save yourself, tell me your story below. Tell me when you knew. Tell me what you packed. Tell me the day you stopped explaining yourself. The relatives who keep you small don't get to write the ending. You do. And if this story found you tonight, share it with the one person in your family who already understands.